All right, guys, thank you for tuning in. This is here. I'm with Tim Kopinski. He's a former ATP player, ranked 1200 in singles and 526 in the doubles on the ATP. I think this is very difficult considering that there is 70 million people playing tennis. He was awarded a Sportsmanship Award and Midwest IT8 Award of the year. He was also the finalist of the Challenger of Champaign, Illinois, which is not a small thing since guys that are within the 200 level are playing the Challenger. And on top of that, some of those guys that are playing Challenger at that level are normally playing qualies of Grand Slams. See, he was also ranked number 6 in doubles on the NCAA. Okay, Tim, thank you for coming, and I hope you have a good time. Anyway,
Yeah, thanks for having me.
no problem. So, Tim, first, I want to ask you a couple of questions about college recruiting, since you are the assistant for the men's tennis team for Illinois. So, what do you think is the most important part of your college job as an assistant?
I'd say the recruiting is a huge part of it. Trying to find the next guys that fit the program, fit the mold, fit what we're looking for. And it's not easy, especially now. I think college tennis has become a very international game. So it's looking at a lot of different places. But definitely the recruiting part is a huge part of my role.
It's a huge part of it. So
Yeah.
now let's say because I have kids that I train and they're younger and everybody wants to play college, right? So question for you. So let's say that somebody wants to think of a top 50 school in the country. What kind of level do they need to have? If you think of a UATR or if you think of a national ranking, how can you say, okay, if I'm I don't know, 11 UTR, what kind of school could I be looking at on the men's side?
Yeah, I'd say we use ETR and WTN, just kind of get a base range. I think about a 12 is something that we'd start kind of considering a little bit. And then, I mean, we have guys that are in a 13 that we're recruiting in. So I think that's kind of our range. Some of the lower programs, I think it's that same mid 11. Mid 11, I think can start becoming
D1, would you say?
I think to be like a top 75 program, kind of that mid 11, 12 range. And there's other factors too. It's not just UTR, obviously, but I think that's kind of a good base range, especially if someone hasn't seen you play.
Okay. Now, what do you think that it makes a good college coach? I know you've been doing this for several years. What do you think it makes a good college coach?
Oh,
I mean, in your opinion,
Yeah, no. For me,
it's different, but you have a vision of what you think is a very good college coach, and you've been experienced. You've been exposed to a lot of college coaches and a lot of regular coaches. So
I think it's so unique. It's so different than I felt is pro coaching and junior coaching. I think in college it's finding that balance of at least our program. I feel like you have the development side, so you have the guys, a coach that understands what it takes to kind of make that next level to the pro tour. And I feel like we have that with, I mean, Brad's helped so many players kind of make that jump. So understanding that, but at the same time being able to manage, I mean, a whole program and a whole team of guys. It's not just one player, one coach. It's 10 to 12 players that you have to kind of get through day by day in a very interesting part of their lives, right? They're 18 to 22 years old. It's a very, very important time. And I think the main thing though is just being really in it, having that care for the guys and kind of really being in it. I feel like that's kind of really hard to find sometimes. I feel like some coaches can maybe sell the part or talk a good game, but I think to really have that passion for it, I think that's very difficult to find.
I see. Also, to tell me that way, some people know when how many scholarships. Let's say you have a tennis team. How many scholarships the men's side have for tennis?
It's 4.5.
How does it work, the scholarship situation?
Yeah, no, it's 4.5 scholarships for the men's side, which is difficult because you have to have at least 6 players to play. And then usually a team, I think, would roster about 10 players at least, just in case injuries and stuff, and kind of looking for the future. So pretty much you're splitting 4.5 scholarships amongst 10 guys.
Okay. I see. I see.
Yeah.
I see. What? How? How does so a kid wants to pick a school, okay?
Yeah.
So he wants to pick a school, and he wants to play tennis. Would you suggest for him to go to school where he's gonna be the lower player and maybe not scholarship, or would you suggest for him to go to a program where he's gonna be playing and he's gonna be in the middle of the team? What would be your suggestions? You know?
I think that all depends on the individual and kind of where their heads are at and their goals. I think someone that's very self-motivated and wants to play at a very, maybe it's a higher program, and they can handle not playing matches for a year or two and kind of really developing. I think that's a great situation. I think for some people, they just want to play, and sitting on the bench is, demotivating, and then you kind of lose interest. And I think that can get very difficult as well. So it's very, very specific to the individual, I think. And then also it's just the academic goals too, and everything. Like, where are you with that? Do you want to play pro tennis? Do you just want to have a great time playing college tennis? I think it's just such a hard question to answer in a broad sense. Especially when, I mean, let's say my story from my developments, I came in playing pretty low, and I wanted to play at a very high level program. I think it was perfect because I'm maybe not playing as high, but I'm learning how to win matches and starting to get confidence. I think that was the issue I had, wasn't very confident. And then all of a sudden you start just kind of moving up in the ranks.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. So
yeah,
can
but I think it's very unique.
share a little bit about your experience? How when you were recruited? Can you share a little bit about your experience? Where were you when you were recruited? What was your ranking? What was because you end up being a very good contender in the singles lineup and
Yeah,
on the doubles lineup, but you didn't start it like that. Can you explain? Because I mean, I'm sure that if this becomes popular, this interview, a lot of the parents or kids are gonna watch this. They're not gonna be having college really to pick and top colleges.
yeah,
They're gonna be going to hassle within the tennis
yeah.
college
No,
setting.
it was fine. I mean, my recruiting journey, I mean, compared to my sister, my twin sister Melissa was one of the top girls in the class, so she's getting call after call after call and has her choice. Whereas for me, it was a little bit different in the sense that I wasn't getting maybe recruited as hard. I think I was very fortunate that the coaches at Illinois really believed in me, and I think they saw that potential. And my mindset kind of coming in was that I wanted to be a part of something. I want to be a part of a program that can win national titles. And it was very difficult at first. I'll say that first semester I came in losing sets 6-0, 6-0. I'm like, what am I doing here? It's maybe a little bit too much, or it was very hard. But I think just I had at least had a good mentality where it was just day to day. I kind of knew what I wanted to do, and then slowly start building up in the ladder. But the recruiting process, I think, was I honestly, I think I got very lucky. I think the coaches kind of saw that I was pretty athletic build, I had good character, and I knew what I wanted to do. And I think that was a big part of it because level wise, I mean, tennis recruiting, I think I was a 4-star recruit when I committed, and I was one of the lower recruits at Illinois in a long time.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think there's more to than just winning matches and losing matches. I think it's how you handle yourself. And obviously, I think they talked to a lot of the coaches in Chicago, and I think the coaches, I was lucky, had good things to say about me, and they kind of saw that I was looking at a clear path of where I wanted to be. And I think that's something we look at too. A lot of the kids we talk to, it's kind of, oh, what do you kind of want to do? And it's okay to not know, but it's a little bit, I just kind of want to be a part of a team. And I think that mentality is maybe not exactly going to work at a place like Illinois, right?
I
It's,
see.
you want
I
to try to achieve something. You want to try to become better, or kind of put yourself at a situation where you become elite minded.
Very good. So team, based on what you just said to me, when you're looking at players, what do you think that are the most, because the life of a player is
Yeah.
a long journey. It's not 2-3 years or 5 years, and at 16 you know what you're gonna be. So when you look at a player, what are the characteristics that you think that somebody to play a very good level of tennis should have? What do you think?
I mean, the mentality, I think it's just that drive every day is a huge thing, and having a little bit more of a growth mindset instead of fixed, where I feel like some of these kids look at results way too hard and they're scared to play, scared to lose. Whereas I think you have to have a little bit, especially when you're younger, is do the right things, do the right things, do the right things, and have that faith that kind of, if you keep doing the right things over time, you will get to where you want to be. And I think it's way too quick for some of these kids to just be like, I lost this weekend, everything's terrible, and then I have to change everything or fix something, and it becomes just this kind of carousel of nothing's happening. I mean, so that's one things we do. I mean, of course, we want to look at kids that are athletic, they can move. I think being able to move is a huge thing. That's very difficult. So kids that can move, kids that have the right mentality, and then kids that kind of have that drive to be, they can see themselves where they want to be. But I think it's starting to get tougher and tougher to find those kids. I'll be honest.
Wow. So what? Okay. So question to you. I mean, how old are you, Timmy, right now? Mid-30s?
30.
30. So
Yeah.
you're 30 right now. And you've been basically 12 years out of high school, and you've been playing, and you're probably in a different generation that is going now into college and all that. What is the main thing that you see the changes in the players today compared to 10 years ago, 12 years ago? There is any changes? What you see?
I think
I'm not talking
mentality-wise,
technical, because you said you just said to me it's very hard right now to get this kind of mentality. What are these changes that you're seeing in players?
I think it's the way they compete and the way they play. I feel like there's a lot of kids that are a little bit more anxious and scared to play matches, scared to play competition. I think a lot of kids want to do ball feeding with the coaches and feel good and kind of look good, but then once it comes competition, I think that's become very, very different. And in its little things, I don't know why it's become like that. I don't know if it could be just the pressure of UTR, maybe the pressure of college coaches having on these kids to have results and stuff. But I think that's a big change where you have kids that don't want to play in that competition, or I mean, more kids are withdrawing, I feel like. And then even simple things. I mean, I had one of my coaches when I was younger made me play a tournament where I'm only slicing backhands to start developing other skills. It's like doing something like that now, I think is crazy to some of these kids, because they could have a tough match against a low UTR and potentially lose that, right? Where that I think is a very impactful moment for me, where it helped me kind of develop and have a vision of where I want to be instead of maybe playing this specific match. And I think that's a big change. And I don't know I don't know how the junior scene right now is in terms of USTA in Chicago. I don't know if it's more difficult to play, but I feel like people are playing less competition. And I mean, I remember it was every single week you're playing, you're just playing, you're playing somewhere. It's all about just play, compete. It's like win, lose, cry, be excited, but then it's like you just compete, and you start building that kind of gene where, like I said, now I think it's become a little bit more of, can I hit a forehand like Dimitrov a couple of times and it looks good, but can you do that in a certain pressure situation with the match in a line? I mean, that's, for us, to be honest, it's like you have a couple hundred fans watching you, cheering on you or not cheering on you, and like that's a big pressure moment where I think kids get a little bit too anxious right now.
Okay. So now going back to again to kind of keep going with the coach style, or what do you think? I mean, I'm a big believer on accepting flaws and knowing what we do well and what we don't do so well. Okay. What do you think is, Timmy, your strength as a coach? What's your strength as a coach? And
I think I can connect with the players pretty well. I mean, especially right now, it's a little bit easier. I'm younger, so I'm in college. I'm not that far off from them. So I think having that deep connection, that trust with these guys, I think is very important, because I mean, tennis is just such a hard sport, right? So if you don't have that connection, you don't have that trust in your coaches, then I think it becomes just very difficult the day to day. And then after that, I mean, you can say the technical stuff and everything. I feel like I've got a pretty good technical background, so I can always help maybe make little tweaks here and there. And then even the physical stuff, I think I've done a pretty good job with that. But I think the main thing is just that mental, emotional side, being able to connect with these guys.
That's okay.
Yeah. And I mean, before matches, after matches, maybe tactically kind of make little adjustments that are very unique to them specifically. Because I think
Yeah.
everyone's so different with, and it's the beauty of tennis, right? We have a guy here that's 6'6", hitting 140-mile-per-hour serve, and then we have another player that's 5'4" and can run for 12 hours a day, right? So it's like finding that connection between them and what makes them tick mentally, and kind of how you get them in that right space mentally when they're competing, because it's very different personalities, especially on a college team.
Good, very good, Timmy. So also, what do you think, changing a little bit? What do you think is tennis for you? How do you
What is?
define tennis? What's tennis for you?
Oh my God, that's a
Whatever it is,
philosophical
whatever
question,
it is.
huh?
Huh?
It's a
It's whatever
philosophical
it
question.
is, I mean, I'm not saying that my questions are gonna be easy, but what's tennis? You know?
I mean, tennis is, it's my life. I mean, tennis literally is my life for me. But it's like,
As a game,
it's
what is tennis as a game? Let's take it as a game. What is to you? I give you an example. So Steve Weiler asked the same question, and he said to me, I said, Steve, what's tennis to you for you? And he said, tennis is a way to get better in life. Okay, that's what he said, because you go
100%.
to. Okay, so I'm giving you, an idea, just to kind of see what somebody else that's been around for a long time said about tennis.
Yeah. No, I mean, to me, it's funny. It's like I love tennis, but I think tennis is a very cruel sport. I think it's a very true sport. It's a very cruel sport that prepares you for life. Whereas I
Okay.
feel like other sports, maybe it's kind of like, I mean, tennis is great. It's a ton of fun, but it's obviously so frustrating, right? It's every single day you make a mistake, you make errors, you make errors, you make errors. So it's so much of it's how you respond to those errors. And I think that's just a great parallel to life in general, right? It's like you get out there, you make a mistake, you do something well, but it's like, how do you respond? How do you respond? And I think it prepares you so well. I think it's so difficult, but if you have that right mentality, I think it's just the best thing ever for these kids.
I see. What what tennis what tennis taught you about yourself? What you learned with tennis? You're telling me, you
Yeah.
said to me, tennis, it's a vehicle to develop in life. Okay, what tennis taught you?
I'd say a couple things in different avenues, right? I think in different periods of my life too, right? I feel like when I was maybe playing on the pro tour, I think that was a very difficult time, right? Because you're very alone. You kind of play every week. You're in random places, and I think in that sense, tennis, I just became way more resilient. I think because it's so frustrating, it's so hard to deal with. To just be a little bit more resilient. I think maybe when I was younger, I think like I said a little bit, how do you respond to situations? I think was a big thing, right? It's like
Yeah.
you play every week, and you're most likely going to lose every single week, right? So it's
Yes.
it's just the ebbs and flows, ups and downs. Like, how do you respond? Like, do you want to take a break? Do you want to go away, or do you want to kind of get into it more and try to get better? So I think that's kind of a major thing is when I was younger. I think also on court when you're playing, it's just how quick can you kind of get out of those situations in those mental spaces. I think it's been a huge thing for me, especially now. It's kind of, you can kind of be quick on your feet. Things don't go well. It's like, okay, I got 20 seconds to kind of get my head in the right space. Then boom, we go, just like I'm stepping up to the line, right? So it's things you don't even think about. And you just kind of catch yourself randomly where you're like, oh, okay, that was kind of easy. That wasn't too bad.
Okay. So now I'm gonna ask you a different question. So let's say, Timmy, you go back and you're in the middle of your juniors. Obviously, you
Yeah.
have knowledge that you didn't have back then. Okay.
Yeah.
How would you pick a coach? What a coach when you were 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, basically young age, what
Yeah.
kind of coach would you pick?
I think I'd honestly put it different in all those ages. I think at 13, maybe a little bit more technically focused, someone that can make sure I know how to hit the ball really well, and be very clear on how to do that. And then I think as I get older, a little bit more tactical and emotional. I think, how do I play the game instead of just hitting balls? Maybe it looks good, but it's just that ball goes there, that ball goes there. And I think there's a feel to tennis where at that age it's so difficult maybe to learn on your own. So someone kind of guides you in that sense, just how to actually play the game. And then I think maybe a little bit later, just someone that can be very good with the mental side, just the emotional side of things too. Just keep you in the right space, get you to the right space, and yeah, just learn how to focus. But I'd say those three things, and I'd say it'd probably be between those ages. Like younger, I'd say try to get
More
technically
technical
sound,
guy. More of
then
a
but still
technical guy.
learn how to play the game, learn actually what I'm doing. So I think that's I think very important, underrated right now in some of these kids where looks good, but it's almost senseless tennis. It's not really, we're not playing the game, we're just hitting balls. And then kind of in those later teenage angst years, how to calm down and
Okay.
learn how to win the emotional battles.
Okay. So how is again? I'll change you again a little bit. How is a week for a guy that is playing at Illinois? What the schedule? What is a week schedule in general? Obviously, it fluctuates a little bit if there are matches, but in general, what would that be a week where there is not a tournament on the weekend, and what is a week like when there is a tournament on the weekend?
Yeah, I'd say one of the things we do unique, I think, with our program is kind of tailored to the individual, which
Okay.
I mean, that's something that we just do. I think that's why we have pretty good success in having guys make that next jump to the pro tour, because it's not just your cookie cutter. Everyone does the same thing today. Everyone does the same thing tomorrow. It's a little bit, you're unique. This is what you do. And this is kind of the plan we have for you. But a generalization, I'd say, is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they would have fitness a little bit more in the gym with the coaches working on mobility, strength stuff, tennis specific. Tuesday, Thursday would be a little bit more conditioning.
Okay.
Tennis wise, they would have individuals with the coaches almost every day. But I think that's also unique where we kind of give the players their own empowerment and what they want to do and how many times they want to do it a week.
They
so
do
that'd be
individual session every day
with the coaches, yeah. And
with
that's
the coaches. Wow.
yeah. And it's and I'll say some players they need 45 minutes, an hour every single day. And I'd say maybe some of the players are a little bit more clear on what they want to do. And they'll maybe do it twice or 3 times a week, less. But we kind of give them that choice, which I think is better because they have that empowerment to kind of develop their own career, right? It's their tennis at the end of the day. And then they'll have a team practice every day, about 2.5, 3 hours. And that's mostly, I'd say, competing focused. And yeah, just playing each other, how to play, maybe given different scenarios, different situations, and develop different skills in their game whilst playing points. So I think those are very important too. And within that, maybe some singles and doubles.
So it's a weekly session when the guys are not in tournaments or they don't have tournaments on the weekend. Would you say it's about 20 hours a week, basically?
Something like that, probably.
Somewhere around there.
Okay.
Yeah. Now changing, Timmy, what's talent for you? What's talent?
Talent. Oh.
You know, obviously, we're going to apply that to a
talent. That's a tricky one, isn't it?
Talent. What do you think?
No, for me, honestly, talent it's more of a mindset and mentality than anything. I think it's just that ability to every day kind of show up every day. I know sometimes you can make it about physical. I mean, there's a way you can look at it where it's physical. I mean, some people are very gifted physically, and that could be talent too. But I think just that mental side is everything. And it just, some people have that confidence, some people have that drive. I think that's what talent is.
Good. So I hear you, and you brought a lot the mental side and the focus side and the resilience. How do you train it?
That's the $1 million question, right? That's why they.
I'm asking you. You know what I mean. You are the guy here.
And
so give me an example. I guess I would say, let's say, see if you can give me an example. Do you know, because a lot of people throw big words out there.
Yeah.
You know, mental this and that.
Yeah.
Okay. So and the people that might watch this, their parents, okay.
Yeah.
And or their kids maybe, and they say, okay, I want them to kind of have an idea how they can get better at these things that we're gonna say.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking you. You know, this is not
no 100%. And I think I actually don't think it's anything crazy. I think it's just paying attention to it and being very consistent and diligent with it almost every day. And I think I mean, my job as a coach is to kind of be on the guys that every single day they are doing their exercises. So some of it is, I mean, after matches, we actually have before practice, they have their pre-practice intentions, what they want to get accomplished today. Post practice, what did they accomplish? Did they get to that headspace they wanted to get to? Did they get
Okay.
frustrated, too frustrated? Were they frustrated, and were they able to get themselves back to the mentality they need to be? And I think just consistently paying attention. Then I think from our end, it's talking to them almost every single day, just about their mentality. Are you there? Are you there? Are you there? Obviously, to maybe build resilience, I think it's putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. And some of it is uncomfortable, but very achievable goals. So I think simple things like, I mean, some of our running workouts, right? They're very specifically timed, very meticulous. Can you hit that workout? And I think it's very tough for some guys, but the guys that can hit it, they start getting confidence and they get a little bit faster, they get a little bit faster, a little bit faster. And I think that starts building also just a confidence that they can hit these goals, they can do this. And you start learning almost how to do it, right? It's kind of,
Yeah.
it's just building steps. But I think a lot of it's just being very meticulous. So I think from parents or players, I think having notes, having diaries, and just tennis being on your mind is kind of how you start developing that. I don't think it's listening to a motivational video here and there and doing it one day, being super excited, and then next day you forget about it and do something different. The hardest part, I think, is just very consistent. I don't think it's that difficult. It's simple, but
It's
well,
simple,
yeah,
but
it's
it's hard
simple, but it's not.
to get
Yeah,
the habit,
exactly.
right?
Exactly.
The habit of doing something. What's the okay? So so we're talking about, you know, the learning curve, right?
Yeah.
How you as a player, or you or anybody as a player, can keep improving, more of a constant improvement, because we see many times that somebody improves and then they shut down, they plateau.
Yeah.
So how do you keep the improvement? What's the trick? There is any trick, or how some people are able to kind of keep evolving and other ones not? How does it
Yeah.
happen?
And it's funny. I don't think development is actually just linear. I think there's sometimes you see all the time where it's like someone seems like they're maybe a little bit plateau and all of a sudden they shoot up. And then I feel like some people just kind of go up and then they kind of lose focus and they go down. But I think the main thing is being consistent and meticulous every single day. I think the easiest thing for especially some of these juniors is go to a group and go into autopilot and kind of hit some cross courts, play a baseline game, laugh a little bit, and then go home. I think that's the easiest way to become terrible at tennis. It's just you plateau and you're just not, you don't have no intention on what you're doing. I think having that intent is huge. Even if you don't see the results right away, but at least you're very clear and you have that intent. And then it's just being consistent. And over time, I mean, majority of people, I think at some point they'll develop and hit that peak. And it's not linear. I mean, you'll see 12-year-olds, I think, that get up really good and they're maybe physically a little bit better or maybe a little bit sharper with certain things for whatever reason. Maybe they played other sports or they have a different mentality. And you have the later bloomers that I think are consistent and out of nowhere, like how do those guys shoot up? But a lot of it is, I think, it being very intentional, and tennis just being on your mind. I think being
Well,
obsessed with the sport
you're
is
obsessed
the
with it,
biggest
and
thing.
little by little you'll find ways to keep
Yeah,
improving little by little, but to keep
yeah.
going up.
You keep going up then, and it's hard. I think that's the hardest part for some kids, right? When maybe they're not hitting the
Yeah,
results they want to hit,
yeah.
but it's the game. It's what it is.
I see. So now, question. You know, we're talking about mental resilience, or in how important is the mental side on the tennis court and all that. And I was just thinking, how would you manage pressure? You know, that is,
Yeah,
everybody has pressure. So what is, how would you how would you get the guys to little by little manage pressure better in the
it's
team, or before being juniors? You know, we know
yeah,
that many people, they don't want to play tournaments anymore. They
yeah,
come into a call and say, listen, I don't want to play anymore.
yeah,
And the UTR and everything starts going down because they don't want to
yeah,
go
yeah,
to the tournament. So how would you do? How would you change that a little bit?
I think it's something we're dealing with right now. I think there is, it's funny you say it, 'cause like there's a lot of pressure playing at Illinois. There's expectations, there's standards, and I think you can see that where people are very nervous to kind of play. And I think it's the same thing where everyone's very unique in their own psyche, their own mentality, their own upbringing. I mean, for us, we have kids from all over the world, right? So it's
Yeah,
very different cultural background from a
yeah,
kid from Japan versus a kid from France, right? So I think
yeah.
it's finding that specific situation for them. But a big thing I think is trying to be very present in the situation, just very, very present. Because I think once we start thinking about what happens if I lose or if I win or this or this or this, I think guys put more pressure on themselves. And then same thing is almost, I mean, for us trying to find ways to depressurize the situation. And
Okay,
it's not, and trying to make it not about winning or losing. It's just by do the right things, do the right things.
okay.
I mean, one
So
of the things I say all the time is like, make the right errors. It's if you're making the right mistakes, I think over time, like you will start, those things will start happening the right way. You'll make that ball, but at least you're doing the right things. I think once you start getting away from that and try to make it about winning or losing, then you try to be a hero and hit that shot, or get too nervous and hit a drop shot, and then it's like now we're just all over the place, and it's just you're gonna collapse.
okay. So we're talking about, I'm hearing you this, and I will share a story with you. I think
Yeah.
you'll like it. So I don't know if you will fly today in tennis, okay?
Okay.
I don't know if it will fly today. But so we're talking about getting into the moment, right? So
Yeah.
you're seeing these guys. So you're on the benches on the side of the court, and you see these guys getting like all jam, and it's like fuck,
Yeah.
it's getting tight, right? And you see him. What you tell him?
I mean, the guys that's getting tight.
It's getting tight, and you see the pressure start eating him.
Yeah. Yeah.
What you tell him?
I mean,
Because
to be
I'm
honest,
sure you have this a lot. This
yeah,
situation, it happens left and right, and
yeah,
especially in good matches. Yes.
and sometimes it's just trying to. It's almost like distract them from this situation and kind of completely forget about where we are, because I think
How do
people
you do
start
that?
building.
How do you do that?
Oh, I'll just talk to them. I'll talk and talk and talk. I mean, me and them locked in. I'll put a towel over their head, completely distract them, or do something different, or give them some Skittles or something. Just completely trying to change the situation and make it not about the tennis, but almost kind of just completely distract their mind. And it's difficult. And then obviously just building their confidence. I think just pumping them about where they are, but a lot of it is just, I think the self-talk is so difficult. So it's unique for each one, but you have to find whatever they connect with and kind of just giving them that self-talk, just that positive loop in their mind. And it's funny, it's like that's what's unique about college coaching, right? Or like you actually have that opportunity to talk
You
to those
get them
players.
with it.
And
That's why, and I'll share what happened to me.
yeah,
So one time I'm playing, and this is happening. What you
yeah,
said, I'm starting to get tight, and it just I can't find myself.
yeah,
So my college coach, Moroccan guy,
yeah,
crazy guy, he comes by me, you know, and he all of a sudden, he grabs a big glass of water, fucking big glass of water, and he pours. You know how you have the coolers right next to you, right?
yeah,
So he's filling up this glass of water, and I'm talking to myself, and I'm just in the mess.
yeah,
And he looks at me, he turns around, and he acts like he's gonna drink this. And as soon as I look at him, he just fucking throw that water on top of me.
yeah,
And it's like all of a sudden, it's like, whoa, what the
yeah,
heck?
just distraction.
Just that distraction just went in 1 second.
Yeah,
He basically stopped my nonsense because
it's
for a
great.
moment, I mean, everything went back to whatever, I just got on my body.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
in my head on all this. And all of a sudden, I couldn't stop thinking about this thing. And I just forgot about it. And
yeah,
I think it helped at that time just to kind of get on my body in that moment, because then the match became a little bit different thing.
for sure.
So I was just, I mean, I think when you were talking
No,
about the lesson at the
it's
moment.
so
That's
good.
really happened to me, and and at that time when that happened, I said, "What's wrong with this dude?" But he
Yeah.
got me out of the way. You know what I mean? I was on my own way, and it's just kind of what you
Sometimes it is
described.
just finding that little distraction or something to get out of that headspace and then kind of wake up.
Yeah, that's right. It was interesting, but it kind of just reminded me as you were talking about it. It just that thing came into my head. What would you say to you? So let's say we go 10 years behind, okay?
Yeah.
When you're just finishing high school and you're going into college, what would you say to you to that guy?
From a tennis perspective or
Yeah,
just in
from a
general?
tennis perspective, what would you say to that guy? You see,
Relax.
I'm sure you got a bunch of kids coming at you that could be you or similar to you.
Yeah.
What would you say to that guy today?
I mean, for me, it would 100% just be just relax and kind of enjoy all this a lot more. I think I'm very high strung and arousal is always pretty high, nervous character. And I think there's times where, especially then, it becomes you just stop enjoying playing, right? I think the basics of it, like you play because it's fun, like you just enjoy
Yeah,
playing. And I think that's also a huge way to start growing, right? And like we talked about, like everyone being so anxious to play now, and maybe their development's a little bit stunted because it's not you're not having fun. You're not having fun, and you're not discovering different things about yourself. Or I think just relax and enjoy it a lot more. Because you can't play forever either. So it's
no,
enjoy these moments and just have fun with it. I think, I mean, even now it's like you get a pretty cool shot, just be like, that was kind of sick. Like just have fun with it instead of just constant, because it's so easy in tennis, right? To constantly just be negative, just be like, I mean, a lot of coaches, right? So how can you can't miss that, can't miss that consistency drill or just pressure, pressure, pressure. But it's like you have to find ways to have fun in this. And I think honestly, it gets more fun the better you get. So I think you have to have those moments where you're pretty dialed in, because then it becomes
yeah,
very, very cool, I think.
yeah. So now again, we're gonna shoot some shit to some coaches. So what and what do you think that your coaches did wrong with you? I mean, because I mean, again, you have become a coach, and there is nothing wrong with what we're saying because
Yeah.
we're all learning, and they're
Yeah.
gonna make mistakes. We're gonna make mistakes. I have kids right now. I make mistakes every other day with my kids. I'm thinking, oh man, I'm messing him up.
Yeah.
So I think it's part of life. I mean, it's not that terrible. But
Yeah.
with your eyes, what did they did wrong with you?
I say probably more from learning how to play tennis and the emotional side of things. I think I never really had, like I said, I was a very nervous character, right? So I think there's too many situations where I'm playing in this just nervous state, right? And not really sure what I'm doing. I feel like I had unbelievable, I mean, especially for my age, I think technique was great. I hit the ball great. And sometimes I think the coaches didn't really see, and some did, but like how nervous I am. And I was a very shy kid too. And I think in that sense, just kind of building confidence in me a little bit instead of maybe bringing me down. And I think that could be also just, I mean, just from parents and just a cultural thing where it's a little bit more kind of negative reinforcement, where like, don't do that, don't do that. That's not good. That has to be better. Instead of being more positive with me a little bit, being like, that was great. That's what you're looking for. That's what you're trying to kind of do every single time. And I think that would start building some confidence. And just maybe I would have a little bit more arrogance when I'm playing later on in life. And I think that's kind of maybe the one little thing I'd say I tweak, right? Because it's subtle, but I think that's a big, big shift, at least for me personally. Other people maybe need it the other way.
Yeah, you might have no remember, but we traveled a little bit, and
Yeah.
and I saw the relationship between parents and kids, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and you see it. So
Yeah.
now every kid has a parent, and
Yeah.
every parent. What would you think that should be, in your eyes,
Yeah.
the healthiest relationship, parent player result? What would that be? What would that be? What would we should say? So, I have a lot of kids that are playing,
Yeah.
and the parents are there,
Yeah.
and based on your experience, what would that be, that relationship?
I think it's also, that depends a little bit on maybe the parents' background and maybe also the parents' relationship with the coach. I think, I mean, my dad was an athlete, so I think he understood some of those things pretty well. So it was very easy for me to relate to some of those performance maybe situations. Whereas you see all the time where parents that haven't really played sports, haven't competed, and then they're very involved, where it's like, it's just very difficult to understand what it feels to be out there if you haven't been out there. And I think it's finding that balance of, obviously you want to help coaching your kid. You guys want to trust your coaches to coach your kid. So I think it's so difficult to say. I think it's so difficult depending on how the parents want to raise the kids too, right? Like how involved are they? And I've just seen so many different situations, right? Where it's like,
No, that's what
some parents are just hands-on, just very
your
extreme,
dad
and
was
like
pretty laid back. I remember your dad was, he seemed at least pretty laid back and kind of
he,
out
he was
there.
he was great in the sense of like he knew his place. I think he understood that he knows this, but he doesn't quite know this. So I think he kind of let the coaches handle that. Especially the older I got. And I think that that's very unique in the sense of like some coaches just want, or parents just want that control of like, what are you doing? Right. So
Yeah.
so I think that was good in that sense. But at the same time, I mean, parents are a huge part of it, right? Because coaches are only with their players hour, 2 hours a day, and then the rest of it's just the parents. So I think how you start helping those kids build that character, build that maybe mentality is very important from the parent side.
Good. So, Timmy, now going back a little bit to you as a player, what do you think that, obviously we all want to be number one in the world, right?
Yeah,
I wanted to do so, but at some point I had to say, man, I don't have it.
yeah,
Okay. So because the results are not there. And I have a question. I have an idea. I have an interpretation what I didn't have.
yeah.
What was the interpretation for you that you didn't have, didn't make you keep going? You know, at some point you shut down that thing, the dream, or at least for now. I don't know if you still have that dream of playing or
Yeah.
not. I don't know. But let's say
I say
shut it down. What was the reason for it?
confidence. I think confidence, and I think you need to have a very special mentality to kind of really make that push. And not, I don't want to say delusional, but I think you have to have a little bit of arrogance that you're going to be there, right? And I feel like maybe I was a little bit too much of a realist, where
Yeah.
I knew I had the physical gifts. I was very physically strong. I think I put a lot of attention to that, and that's what helped me get to where I was. Technically, I think I was pretty sound. I mean, I can hit whatever I wanted. I pretty much can do whatever I want around the court. But that arrogance that I'm going to be there, I think that was never quite aligned with everything else. And it's funny, I mean, I've thought about it too. It's like I worked very, very hard as a tennis player, but it was almost to compensate because I wasn't confident. So I feel like I had to do so much to maybe be there, where you see some of these players that you can say they're lazy or whatever, but they have very good results. It's because they have this deep belief in themselves that they're just going to make it. And I think that is something that is a bigger driving force than everything else, to be honest. It's that deep belief that you're there, or you will be there.
The reason why I ask you that, and the funny thing is, a good friend of mine and coach and player teammate, and I know him since we were young. It's Dante Bottini, okay?
Yeah.
And he's working with Kovacevic now.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I just did an interview with him, okay? 2 days ago, 3 days ago.
Yeah.
Okay. And he mentioned a word that you just said, okay? Because he was also a decent player. I think he was like 800,
Yeah.
And I said to him, and I said, what's the thing where you may what do you think about players today playing and all that? And he said to me, man, there is a bunch of delusional people, okay, that they will never play tennis, but they think they can make it. He was like, what do you think? Because I asked him, I said, what do you think? I said, and he said to me, man, I think, I'm not delusional. I was a realist. but he said he didn't look at it. You said delusional in a good way.
Yeah.
He's delusional in a bad way. He said, you said, I felt like I didn't have some of the stuff, but you mentioned the same word.
Yeah.
Delusional. He said to me, he said, there's a bunch of delusional kids.
Yeah.
Nowadays seems like everybody think they're gonna make it and they
Yeah.
can't even swing at the ball. So that was interesting, you mentioned
I think you
same
need the
word.
combination of things, but I think that's one of the little ingredients that needs to be thrown in there. I think if you can combine it with everything else, then
Yes,
like
yes, you have to
that's
have
the one. Yeah.
there is a belief, right? There is a belief that you have to have 100%.
Yeah.
So now let me look at it. I think we covered a lot of things that I want you to kind of share with me. And so anyway, I think now so your parents, you as a player, mistakes. Now when you recruit a kid from, how do you know, or how do you think, obviously with it's hard to be certain, right?
Yeah.
They ask Gaston Gaudio, they said he was watching Federer one time when Federer was 16 years old. They asked him, said, listen, this guy's gonna be the best player ever. And Gaudio, which ended up being 5 in the world, he said,
Yeah.
"Man, I don't think this guy's good enough." And Federer ended up
Yeah.
being Federer, right? So when you go and you look at players, what would you look then to say this guy has potential to be a top guy for us, and this guy not? This will be the last question.
I'd say, I mean, I think a big thing is the way they move. I think that's just the first
The
thing
way
you
they
notice.
move.
I
Okay.
think that's the first thing I kind of notice when I'm out on recruiting trips or like watching these junior
You like
splits.
the guys that move very well?
Can they move? Can they move? Are they athletes, or I don't know, everyone defines that differently, but you just see the way they move and kind of the way they flow.
The way they
Especially at
what?
the age,
The way they
the
what?
way they flow, the way they move and flow on the court,
move
which I think,
and move.
and that age, I think at that age, because that's something I think to develop, it's pretty difficult to develop maybe a little bit later, right? So I think by then, if you don't quite have that, and it's unique too. Some kids grow late, some kids maybe grow early, but can they move? And then I just think their mentality, you just see it in their eyes, like how they can control their arousal maybe on court. Are they calm in situations? Are they intentionally manipulating their arousal to be maybe a little bit more hyped up or maybe a little bit more engaged? It's just, and I think they have a feel for the court. I think that's something that's so hard to develop, but
Okay,
they
so
have
move
they have a feel
and feel
Yeah.
for the core and kind of
Yeah.
mentality.
Yeah.
Now, question. I mean, I was gonna catch you right there, but I think I love what you're saying, and so now, when you talked about that delusional belief, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
These fuckers have, because I think
Yeah.
some of them they do have that. How do you get that? Because I mean,
I don't know.
huh?
I wish I did. I wish I did.
Huh?
I wish I knew.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
I think that's probably when you're growing up. I mean, who knows? It could be how your parents maybe talk to you every single day, right? And it's just this balance of, yes, you want to believe that you're the greatest thing on planet Earth, but at the same time, if you can combine that with that work ethic and everything, now I think you start having this weird confidence that, yeah, you are that guy kind of thing.
So you see, very interesting. I mean, I wanted to cut, but you make me think here. So now we didn't want to talk about crap about parents, but then we go to the parents. If they hammer you too much, it's not so good. But if they cattle you too much, not so good. Huh?
Yeah,
Goes back to that dynamic of building the kid, right?
100%. And that's also, it's so unique with different, I mean, the cultures, right? I feel like you have it's an international sport, right? So it's like you have maybe, I mean, Asian culture a little bit different how they parent their kids, and I think it could be a lot more. You're just on top of the kids, just nonstop. Like, that's not good enough, not good enough, not good enough. Which you get certain results too. I feel like Latin America, probably very different too, right? It's kind of, you would know better than me, but
Yes.
it's very, in US, I think it's all so unique and kind of how it's balanced. And I don't know if there is the perfect formula, but I think somewhere balanced in between there is that way where you kind of can mold some of these kids' mentality to have a chance, have a chance.
Timmy, I don't know if this will be a tip for you, as a picking up the right guys, but
Yeah,
based on that, how I will resume or synthesize what we're talking about, the kids that win.
yeah, yeah,
They cannot
yeah,
have the right mix of
yeah.
that. I don't know how, but the good mix comes out.
It is, and that's also something that's so unique, right? It's like if a kid can develop at the right age and develop at the right time, and they start winning, so they start believing they're winners. You just believe you're a winner. I think that's a huge part. Honestly, that's why I think college is so good, especially some of these kids that they want to go to these schools and play number one, and then it's like, okay, that's pointless because you win 50% of your matches and it's great. And then you have these kids that come in and they play lower and they just win and they win and they win. And they're not playing the competition, but they learn how to win. They learn how to win. And then now they can start building, building, building. Next year they play higher, they play better competition. Next year they play higher, they play better competition. It's almost like it's a habit. You learn how to win. It's a weird habit.
Listen, man, I know I'm gonna bother you with one more question. We're talking
Yeah,
about this and then you just say. So you guys have to make the lineup, right? So you
yeah,
got players from 1 to 8 all the way.
yeah.
So how do you make the lineup? Best guy number one, second guy best number two. It goes by level, or do you guys sometimes they mix it around, kind of stack the teams, or
We
I
we
don't
we
want you
mix
to
it.
say you're cheating, but what I'm saying is that is it really
Yeah.
through six, or there is a little changes sometimes based on players?
It's funny. I think that's one thing that's changed a little bit in college now, where I think 1 through 6 is pretty even. Actually, I think obviously, I think number one, number six, there's gonna be a little bit maybe difference, but in general, I think they're almost all interchangeable. I think it used to be where it's like it's a very clear number one, and there's like a very clear number six, where you can always like the number one's big serve, big game. Number six, the grinder, right? That's always been the
Yeah, yeah,
stereotype.
yeah.
That's kind of what it. But I feel like now it's become, and maybe it's just college is becoming just better and better players are coming to college, where I think the lineup
Yeah,
is.
everybody's more
So
even.
I think you can easily argue like the guy at four could play number one. Like you can have that argument any day. And I think the way, I mean, we'll set it up kind of depending on the match, the matchups, maybe what the kids believe in themselves. Maybe some kids have less pressure playing a little bit higher in the lineup. They can't play at six because they feel like they have to win. But playing at four, it's like they can play a little bit more free, right? So I think there's that balance there. Maybe in terms of their development, playing lower is better to learn how to win matches. I think it's just so unique, and it goes match by match at the same time. But yeah, I think that's very different now, where it is a lot more balanced, I think.
Now, when you go to the NCAA, so obviously you have the regular season, right? You go
Yeah.
to NCAA. Is the team? How do you make the team for an NCAA? Do you make it by level, or you made it by how these guys are feeling this week?
By then it starts becoming a little bit more fixed, because I think you have to win. Like if you
You
can't
have to win.
be
That's right. That's
you
why
can't lose. Yeah, you can't lose every single match at one and then I'm going to put you at one again. Like you're just not allowed to do that, right? So I think by then everything kind of balances out pretty well.
and you know who
Um,
is who and what not. So towards the
yeah,
end of the
yeah.
season, it's clear where
It's
everybody's playing.
it's a lot more clear, I think, at the same
It's a
time,
lot more clear.
because I mean the better teams, you'll have 1 through 6 that are all have winning records. You can easily argue like, okay, that guy can play three, this guy can go down to four. Like they both have the same record at the same spot. So it's like there becomes a little bit of chess kind of in how you want to play that. Um, and obviously same thing, I think the psychology of the players, what can they handle, what do they need, indoors, outdoors conditions. Are we going, is NCAA's in Florida where it's super hot and humid? Is it going to be in Illinois where maybe it's not as warm and really windy, right? So, or something like that, or Oklahoma State. I think this year it's in Oklahoma State, so you can expect windy conditions.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough play.
Yeah, so I think that's where you can kind of start finding in outdoors, high bouncing courts. How do they match up in those situations? So then it becomes a little bit more tactical, a little more chess.
Timmy, Listen, man, I think I can talk to you for an hour. You know, for 2 more hours. I think you're really good at talking for your age. I think you're a young guy, and I mean, I think you speak very well. I think
Thank you.
you know a lot. You know a lot. I like the way that you. Obviously, maybe I like the way you answer too. But it was very fun, Timmy. Thank you for doing it, and I'm gonna stop the recording.